Now we can continue with the four types of sustenance. As we have discussed different sentient beings in different destinies or in the three realms, how do they survive? It's a very important question. We say that all sentient beings, they must have food, or we say sustenance. That's a more general word for things that can nourish us bodily and mentally. So we have four types of sustenance, as all sentient beings need them. And we can give a definition and distribution of these sustenance in the three realms. They are the material food, we have contact, we have volition, and consciousness. But before I continue with each of them, before we go through one by one, we need to note that all these four types of sustenance, they are impure factors. Although the contact or the volition or the consciousness can also be pure, as they belong to Dhammadhatu or they belong to the consciousness, they can also be pure. However, when it comes to factors that can serve as sustenance, something that can nourish sentient beings so they can survive in samsara, it definitely they are impure factors. So we only talk about impure factors here. And because pure factors, they are antidote, they're actually counteracting to the mundane factors, and they will destroy the three realms. They will put an end to the samsara. So they are, of course, not sustenance. And only impure factors can benefit samsara, therefore established as sustenance. Here is the first one, the material food. They're found only in the desire realm. As we mentioned earlier, if a sentient being has not get detached from material food, there's no chance, or detached from and other things as well, right? Defilements in the Kamadhatu. Then there's no chance for one to cultivate the dhyana meditations and be reborn as a being in a form realm. So the material food is only found in the desire realm, as where we are now. And this kind of food consists of odors, taste, and tangibles, not including the visible form. Well, that's understandable. For example, if you take some food, like our 3 meals every day, you eat them, but you don't really eat the colors. If colors or shapes can also be this kind of material food, well, then you don't need to eat them. You will be satisfied only by watching them, by looking at them, right? But that's not possible. You have to take in the odors, the taste, and the tangibles of that food. So this is the material food. It nourishes our physical body by enhancing our sense faculties, by enhancing our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and our body as well. And it can be divided into coarse and subtle. The coarse food is just like our 3 meals every day. They're coarse. And subtle material food, for example, the food of Bado, of the intermediate beings, and also the food of devas. There are a few. Here comes the question: how can we say that one material food is subtle and the other food is coarse? There are a few different criteria, but here is one that we often mention. If you take this material food, and afterwards you don't need to go to the toilet, well, that food is subtle. Otherwise, they are coarse. So obviously, with this criteria, we would say that our 3 meals every day are coarse material food. And the subtle material food would also include those of humans at the beginning of a kalpa. because they don't need to go to the toilet after that. It's like pouring oil into sands. The oil will be absorbed by the sands. Right? There's no leakage of dirty after digestion. So those are subtle. Okay, now we have an idea of the material food, but it is also not limited by those we take with our mouth. For example, if we put some cream, or some aromatic oil and spread it on our skin, maybe with some massage as well, then those cream or oil will be absorbed by our skin. That is also a kind of material food. The second type of sustenance is contact. Well, contact, as you might still remember, it's one of the 10 generally permeating mental factors. So it's present in all three realms. And it's the mental event arising from the conjunction of sense faculty, object, and consciousness. Well, for example, when your eye sees a beautiful scene, or when your ears hear good music, or when you feel some refreshing coolness after a long and tedious meeting, you will have this pleasant contact. And after the contact, sensations will arise. For example, pleasant sensations. And that benefits us. That benefits, the pleasant contact will benefit sentient beings. And the third type of sustenance is volition. They are present. The volition is present in all three realms, and it is also one of the 10 generally permeating mental factors. It is the mental action, which we have talked a bit earlier. It reflects on an object. Therefore, it is a kind of driving force. And we have story about this volition as a kind of sustenance that supports or maintains one's lives. For example, there is a story that goes like this: during a time of extreme famine, meaning that the people are in short of food. During that time, a lot of people died because of hunger. So we have this man. He decided that he should no longer just stay at home when where there's no food at all. So he decided to go to other places that a bit far away from his village to look for food. But before he left, he told his two sons, his two kids, that he's going to some places, and he promised he will bring some food back home, but it may take some while, it may take a few days, maybe a few weeks. So he told his two sons that if they were hungry, just remember that they still have some flour powders left in their home. He actually packed a bag and hang it on top in the middle of the house, right below the ceiling, below the roof, which his two kids cannot touch them, but it's just right there. So he told his two sons that I'll be back soon, and don't worry, if one day you really get too hungry, you can, and when someone just passed by our home, you can stop them and ask them to help you to take that bag down. Then you will have some food. That's the flour powders, that kind of thing we usually mix with water and bake bread. So he told his sons, then he left. After maybe 10 days, maybe 2 weeks, his two sons are really hungry. They cannot stand anymore. And accidentally, a man passed by their place. So the two kids stopped that man and begged him to take down the bag from the roof. And when that bag was opened, they saw no flour. They only saw some ashes, some small stones, and things like that. And the moment they saw it, they realized that there is no food at all. They died. So that's the story of the flour bag. So, but what has kept these two kids for being alive for 10 days or maybe 2 weeks for this long time? It has a lot to do with this volition, the mental action behind, a kind of hope. There's another story actually, also about this volition as a kind of, as a type of sustenance to maintain one's life. It says a businessman who went to the sea seeking for some fortune, for some jewelries, which this was a very popular and very common practice by businessmen in ancient India. So he went on the journey with other businessmen, but unfortunately some kind of disaster happened, so their boat was damaged. Other people just got his companion got drowned. They all died, and he was lucky enough to grasp one of the wood plates from the boat, and he survived and is floating on the ocean. And after a few days, he was so tired and he's hungry. But at that time, he saw in a distance that there was a thing which he thought it was like land. It was like an island or something. So he was very excited and he was happy, and he had hope again, the hope of being, the hope of getting support and being alive again. So he started to swim with all his strength towards that island or land. And after 1 day or maybe 2, when he had been totally exhausted, and when he finally got close to that land, he saw that there was no such a thing. There was no land. It was only a big gathering of white bubbles floating in the ocean. So he was totally frustrated, disappointed. His last hope was gone, and very soon he died. In this case, we would also say that the reason he could hang on for this long time, floating in the ocean, not dying, it has a lot to do with this volition as a kind of sustenance. And the last kind of sustenance is the consciousness. Again, we have to say it is the impure consciousness, because we don't talk about the pure consciousness as sustenance to our lives. It sustains the body-mind continuum and connects rebirth. So it is also a type of sustenance from a perspective of extending our lives from this life to the next. And the physical seeds from our parents, as we now understand, like the sperm from a father and the egg from a mother, their combination is not enough to bring about sentient beings. We definitely need this consciousness to join. Okay, these are the 4 types of sustenance. Next, let's take a look at the dependent origination, one of the most fundamental theories in Buddhism, across all schools, from Hinayana to Mahayana, all schools. But before we take a closer look into these 12 branches, it is important to know that some outsiders, they who also believe in past and future lives, which is good. However, they believe that there is a constant me who transmigrates from one life to the next, who abandons the aggregates of a past life and continues with aggregates of a present life. So they argue that such a me must exist in order to be born and reborn and for the samsara to continue. However, according to Buddha's teaching, such a me of real entity that performs actions and experiences retributions in samsara does not exist. This me or self is just a temporary name and based on a temporary accumulation of aggregates, so that are constantly driven by defilements and actions. So it is this accumulation of aggregates which we mistakenly assume as self that transmigrates from one life to the next in the seemingly endless samsara. So how does this transmigration happen again and again and again? And what are the mechanisms behind to keep this chain or circulations move on? That is clarified by Buddha's teaching on the dependent origination. And here we shall focus on the explanations or the theory from the views of Substivadin scholars, and that namely the three lives and twofold dependent origination, as we will explain very soon. And on the left, as you can see, it is a diagram from the annotated English translation by Gelon Lodro sample. So one of the important things we should keep in mind is that according to Substivada, the 12 branches of this dependent origination, each of them refers to the 5 aggregates. Just they're named due to the most apparent component. For example, the first one, ignorance. Because during this stage, ignorance or defilements, they are the most apparent, they're overwhelming during this stage, so they got a name, ignorance. But in nature, they refer to the 5 aggregates. Okay, so this is one fundamental understanding on these 12 branches. And the first one, ignorance, it's the state of defilement in previous life. With such defilements in the previous life, actions of good or bad and so on will arise. That's the karma formations. So from ignorance, we have karma formations. These two are in the previous life. And then with this defilement and karma formations, defilement and actions, as the cause, we are going to have the consciousness in this life. That is the moment of reincarnation, actually. The 5 aggregates at the birth existence. And once we got reborn, let's take human for example. A human got reborn in his mom's womb. So the name and form will come. The 5 aggregates from the birth existence and before the complete arising of the 6 ayatanas. It means the form, it is the material body. It's the mostly, especially during at the beginning of rebirth, the form is the aggregated form. It mainly is the body, a sense faculty of body at the beginning of reincarnation, of reborn, of rebirth. And the name here, it means the other 4 aggregates. That's the aggregate of sensation, of conception, of formation, and consciousness. So these 4 altogether, they got they are called the name. So name and form, it's 5 aggregates, and it's the early stage of that embryo. If we are talking about a human, for example, that's the early stage of that embryo in the womb, where the other sense faculties have not been developed yet. So the eyes, the nose, the ears, and so on is not obvious. They're not obvious yet. From the name and form, we will have the sense, the six sense sources coming. So it's a complete arising of the six ayatanas: the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, and other parts of the body, inside and outside, and of course the consciousness as well. All these arise and matures with time, but before the joining of the three, meaning during this stage, the sense faculties are not really apprehending various objects to arise different consciousnesses, not yet. So, but from these six sense sources, then comes the contact. The name and form and six sense sources, they mainly refer or mainly correspond to the stage in the womb, or before the person comes out of the world and sees the world, before 2 or 3 years old. But contact, where we're talking about here, is the joining of the three, the joining of the sense faculties and objects and consciousness to apprehend different objects, and before he or she is able to distinguish the sensations, the sensation of pleasant or painful, neutral. That corresponds to, again, if we take human for example, that corresponds to about 2 to 3 years old kids. They are, for example, they're curious about the world. They want to experience everything. They have this contact, of course. They want to experience different things with curiosity. They might touch the fire with their fingers without being able to distinguish the sensations, again, because they don't know. Unlike adults, unlike elder people, they know, okay, the fire is dangerous, don't touch it, it will bring you, you might be hurt, it will be painful, and so on. But 2 to 3 years old kids, they are not yet able to distinguish these different sensations. They just want to experience, they just want to have these different contacts. Again, the contact here is one of the generally permeating mental factor. Sensation as well. From contact, we got sensations. And during this stage, one is able to distinguish the different sensations. But before attachment to sexual union, before desire to sex, this corresponds to, as for humans, it corresponds to about 5 to 15 years old. Of course, they already know the difference in different sensations, but they are not yet deeply attached to sex. So this is the teenage period. And from sensations, we got craving. That is above 15 or above 16. That's the youth, where we have developed this attachment to the objects desire, different objects, from colors, from shapes to sex. So we have desire, we have attachment to them, but before we actively seeking out for them. So this is the so-called, so this is the period of youth, maybe, and the so-called love of human feeling, as described a lot in movies and novels, mostly starts from here, from this stage. From craving, and when it gets stronger and stronger, when it develops with time, we have grasping. Grasping means a person, like human, starts to run about to actively pursue the enjoyments. Like the adult, the youth, or the middle age, and so on. They can do for the enjoyments at any cost. That's the grasping. And from craving and grasping, from these defilements, we have different actions carried out and accumulated, which will produce a future existence. And that stage is called existence. Karma in nature. And this existence, or these actions, will take place all the way until the end of this life. And with such existence, with such karma, accompanied by the defilements, of course, we're going to have birth, or maybe rebirth, if you want to call it. That's the new birth existence of next life. It means that that's the reincarnation again. And with the birth of next life, we're also going to have the old age and death. But it's not literally the old age, the old man or old women or the death as we usually talk about. It refers to the name and form, the six sense sources, the contact and sensation. It refers to these four branches in this dependent origination in the next life. So that's the 12 branches in this dependent origination. And we shall examine them in a closer look, that these 12 branches can actually be divided in 3 categories. The ignorance in a previous life and the craving and grasping in this life, they are defilements in nature. And the karma formations in a previous life and the existence in this life, they are actions or karma in nature. And the other 7, from consciousness to name and form, the 6 sense sources, the contact and sensation of this life, and to the birth and old age and death in the next life, they are effects in nature. So 12 branches, 3 categories. And if we look at this dependent origination from three lives, we actually have twofold cause and effect. So the first one is the past to present dependent origination. So with past life defilements and karma, namely the ignorance and karma formations as cause, we're going to have the effect in this life, namely from consciousness to the sensations. And we also have this present to future dependent origination, meaning with defilements and karma in this life, and that is from craving to grasping and existence, we're going to bring about the effects in the next life, and that is the birth and the old age and death. That's how it is. So from what we have explained, we actually can understand that this is a closed loop mechanism of samsara. Why? Let's see how it works. First, the defilements will cause more defilements. Just like craving will increase its power and gradually it becomes grasping. Its defilements cause more defilements. Right? And defilements also produce actions. Just like the ignorance will lead to karma formations, or grasping will produce existence. And the actions will produce effects. Like from karma formations to the consciousness, or from existence that leads to birth. These effects, they will produce more effects. Like from the consciousness to name and form, or from birth to old age and death. Here comes another problem. It doesn't stop here. The effects do not just stop there. It will, if apprehended by sentient beings with defilements, more defilements will be produced. Like sensation will give rise to craving, and old age and death will cause ignorance. So you see, as the closed loop shown here in the red frame, then we can understand that the key problem in this samsara is the defilements. So defilements cause defilements. The effects again can produce defilements, and then this whole loop will continue non-stop. It also gives us the understanding that if we really want to break out from samsara, then it is the defilements that we should get rid of, that we should abandon. And we have some other analogies for these 3 categories. For those defilements, they are like seeds, like dragon, like grass roots, like trees, or like husks. Why? Well, defilements are like seeds because from seeds you get to the fruits. Just like from defilements, you're going to have actions. Defilements are also like dragon. An ocean, as long as a dragon lives in an ocean, the water in that ocean will not get dried. And likewise, as long as we have defilements, the samsara, the mud of samsara will always exist, will not be dried. The defilements are also like grass roots. So from that roots, grass will grow. From defilements, the action will grow. Defilements are also like tree, because from tree we're going to have branches, we're going to have flowers and fruits. Likewise, from defilements we're going to have karmas, we're going to have the world, sentient beings and the receptacle world, everything comes. Defilements are also like husks. The husk is the outer layer of corns, like rice. So without this outer layer, the rice seeds will not be able to ripen. And similarly, actions covered or accompanied by defilements, and actions, only those actions covered or accompanied by defilements will be able to give rise to their effects. That's why we say defilements are like husks. And the karma is like fruit with skin. Without that skin, the fruit will not be able to give rise, will not be able to have this power as seeds. So saying, as we have explained, the karma not covered or accompanied by defilements will not give rise to future future effects. And karma is also like medicine. We say that a medicine, especially those traditional medicine or the Western medicine whatsoever, they have a one-time effect, and when its effect is exhausted, it's gone. So is karma. It has an effect, and it has a power, and when that power is exhausted, so will the effect be exhausted. And the karma is also like a flower, because from flower is actually the close cause to the fruit, and similarly, karma is the close cause of the effect. But it's important to keep in mind that while effects or the entire samsara come directly from the karma of sentient beings, these karma will not arise without the defilement of sentient beings. So that is the logic. That is the logic behind this entire loop of samsara. Okay, for now we have explained the main topics about sentient beings. From next lecture we will in next lecture we will focus more on the receptacle world where sentient beings live. That is for now, and we have some exercises for this lecture.